Hello, my name is Christina, and I just want to share my testimony with you. My journey started about 3.5 years ago when I was at the prime of my life. I was finishing 2 university degrees, getting married, and building a new home. All of a sudden, my vision started to go blurry. I started seeing double. My eyes went wall-eyed. I couldn't see. If I opened my eyes, I would fall over from the dizziness. This began my introduction to the medical system. I went through several emergency rooms, saw many doctors who would ultimately send me to a specialist. Finally, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. 6 months later, I was given another blow. The lump on my thyroid that my doctor mistook for a goiter for 2 years were cancerous and needed to be immediately removed. Then, 4.5 months pregnant with my son, I underwent surgery to remove my thyroid and approximately 15 lymph nodes. The cancer was so extensive that it penetrated my trachea and my voice nerve and would subsequently require radioactive iodine. After my first radiation treatment, I found out that the cancer had spread to my lungs. The doctors reassured me that it was a very slow-moving cancer, that it shouldn't bother me for about 20 years. Yet many specialists concurred that it was aggressively spreading and required large doses of radioactive iodine. 6 months later, I received my second radiation treatment. The only thing that it really destroyed was my salivary glands and left me with an ulcer. To add salt to my wound, a new obstacle emerged. Under the instruction of my neurologist, I began taking an immune suppressant drug that alleged to help decrease the effects of the MS. This had to be self-injected into my legs once a week at a cost of about $20,000 a year and was only partially covered by Medicare. After 1 month was struggling with these injections myself and suffering from its side effects, the drug company disapproved my usage pending remission of my cancer. What a waste of time, money, and unnecessarily added stress, as I already knew what my prognosis was. It shouldn't bother me for 20 years. My body was full of radiation, immune suppressant drugs, steroids from the MS attacks, and morphine from the pain. My hormones were so out of whack from the removal of my thyroid, combined with a pregnancy, and then two radiation treatments. I had been picked and prodded at in so many different ways. I was saddened and depressed by the fact that I was dealt so many different serious issues. However, I resolved myself to the fact that even though the two diseases were not related, there was clearly something wrong with the chemistry in my body. I was introduced to Avena Originals in May 2005. I attended my first meeting and was immediately taken by Dr. Bernard Jensen's story of his amazing recovery. I decided to take the products and essentially clean my body and feed my body. Ultimately, given the cost of the products, I wasn't fooling around. I would start eating 100% enzyme-rich raw food. I began my cleanse cold turkey. My husband and I stripped our kitchen of everything packaged and processed, and we filled our fridge with enzyme-rich fruits, vegetables, seeds, and nuts. I started taking approximately 120 Avena enzymes and 60 Avena flora per day. Within the first 3 days, I had the worst migraine I have ever experienced. Within 1 week of the products, the feelings started returning to my operation site, my right shoulder, chest, and neck. Within 2 weeks, I no longer required prescription glasses. Then, about 3 weeks into my program, I became violently ill with a fever and blurred vision. I refused to go to the hospital as they would just find another drug to put me on. On the 3rd day of this ailment, I coughed out a large, bloody, chunky mass. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, and there was nothing leading up to it. I didn't have a cold, nor was it followed by any mucus. Within an hour, I felt better. My fever and blurred vision were gone. I immediately started looking into what this could have been. I did some research on the internet about natural treatments of lung cancer. I found out that even naturally, it is very hard to treat lung cancer. The few cases that have been successful, the patients always report the same scenario. You cough them out. Even after this, I looked forward to my scheduled CAT scan 2 months later. I would also have the proof medically that my tumors were gone. The results of the CAT scan came back as no change. I was so disappointed. What did I waste all that money for? And the raw diet was torture. I was really upset. I called my doctor to discuss the results. He said this is what is expected. Even if the radiation had worked, we won't know from a CAT scan because a CAT scan will only show scar tissue. What we'll do, he told me, is we'll get you to drink more radiation. Just a little bit, and then we'll do a radiation scan. The active cancer tissue will uptake and the radiation will be highlighted on the scan. I refused. 3 months into my raw organic lifestyle, still on enzyme therapy, I got pregnant again. I saw all 4 of my specialists, and they actually recommended that I not continue with the pregnancy. Firstly, it had only been 5 months from my last radiation treatment. Secondly, another pregnancy would interfere with any further treatments. Thirdly, a pregnancy would most likely result in another MS episode. From my perspective, I was healing rapidly, but I hadn't allowed my body enough time to remove the many toxins that ravaged it. Against all odds, I went through with the pregnancy. All my doctors told me to come and see them after I gave birth. It turned out to be the break I needed from the medical system, from all the treatments and testing. After 120 days on 100% raw, I continued to be 80% raw while taking enzymes. My daughter is now 14 months old. She loves eating fruits and vegetables. Her day doesn't start unless she has had 2 glasses of green smoothie. I have never been given a clean bill of health by any medical professional. I personally choose to measure my health by other means. I'm simply not willing to live with the current medical prognosis. So I make my own rules. I listen to my body. If it tells me not to eat something, then I don't. If it tells me to take more enzymes, then I do. If I work too hard, my legs ache and I have to stop. If I eat something that I shouldn't, I pay the price. Instantly, my sinuses are clogged. I have a headache and a rash appears on my face. I know that I am a survivor as I have control over my life. People often are taken by how painlessly I rattle off my story. They are saddened and remorseful and often don't know what to say. I tell them cancer was the best thing that had ever happened to me. The only regret I have is losing my thyroid. When I studied biochemistry, I hated enzymes. We spent a whole semester on them. I didn't know at the time that they would eventually save my life. I would have paid more attention in class.